begins with a stone. A stone that has been handled so many times its edges have lost their sharpness, and yet no one bothers to replace it because the weight distribution is ideal for demonstration. The cavern surrounding it is unpleasant. The humidity clings to robes, tools, and tempers. Half the lights in the place flicker because the original wiring is older than most of the people using it. The stone rises, not gracefully. The repulsor coils under the floor sputter for a moment first, which would be alarming if everyone in the room weren't already used to the noise. A few robed figures lean in. 3 of them take notes. One tries to pretend he isn't nervous about the slight smoke coming from an overworked emitter. "It works," someone says, though the statement is probably premature. Another begins cataloging potential uses out loud, which is not helpful because the rest of them already know the possibilities and have arguments prepared for all of them. The eldest in the group watches the young acolyte at the doorway. The acolyte has been told twice to stand back. He has ignored both instructions. His eyes stay fixed on the stone, not the machinery, not the exhaust ports, and that is when the elder realizes where the real problem lies. "If we publish this," he begins, "we remain technicians." A few heads tilt. Not a disagreement, just a calculation. If we do not, we become something else. The words sit in the air longer than intended. Someone clears his throat, loudly. Someone else looks down at the coils with sudden discomfort. The group disperses into work. Lights go off. Panels are rearranged. The lattice is taken apart with an efficiency that suggests they have all anticipated this decision far longer than they admit. When the demonstration is repeated hours later, the stone rises again. The hum is quieter now. Everything visible appears natural, even though nothing about it is. They decide on a name, the Force. No one votes on it, but no one challenges it. The term solves several immediate problems, which is enough for this group. The rock settles back into its cradle. The acolyte stares at it as though something profound has occurred. No one corrects him. Centuries erase the cavern. Archives lose the earliest notes. A few diagrams survive, but no one connects them to the modern order, and the order does nothing to clarify the matter. Devices become smaller. Fittings become more elegant. Entire rooms are redesigned around the equipment that the public must never see. Force push emerges only after several attempts to standardize pulse timing. Early versions were too strong or too weak, which caused multiple accidents and one incident that required a wall replacement. Remote saber retrieval becomes a ceremony only after technicians discover the optimal alloy blend for reliable attraction fields. The idea of willing a saber into one's hand is a later addition. Inside the temple, the Order develops selection protocols. These are not written anywhere obvious, but they are understood. A child who responds to demonstrations with awe is advanced to the next assessment. A child who asks direct questions about airflow patterns or machine noise is politely redirected toward other futures. This continues for generations. A pattern becomes a standard. A standard becomes tradition. Political administrators request measurable data. They want charts. They want readings. They want something empirical they can file. The council confers. Their answer is brief and stops further discussion. Midichlorians. The term satisfies bureaucrats because it is specific enough to appear scientific and vague enough that no one can produce contradictory evidence. Meanwhile, maintenance teams circulate through the temple every night. They adjust emitter angles. They tighten energy regulators. They replace worn components. Jedi Masters meditate above them, unaware that their demonstrations tomorrow depend on a technician with a hydrospanner and a schedule no one acknowledges publicly. Everyone plays their role. Everyone tells themselves it is part of a larger purpose, even though the definition of that purpose becomes more uncertain over time. Sheev Palpatine reads in silence. He should be studying diplomatic strategy. He reads cautionary Jedi texts instead, and he reads them with a level of concentration that would concern the authors if any of them were present. The scrolls describe forbidden techniques. Warnings of Fallen Jedi. Accounts written without precision, but written with confidence. And Sheev accepts every detail as intended. He studies each sentence. He reconstructs events that never happened. He assigns motivations to figures who were invented only to frighten students. He believes the Sith live in the shadows of the galaxy. He believes they wait for worthy successors. He believes they communicate through unseen channels that bypass conventional understanding. When nothing happens, when no Sith reaches out, he decides this is a test. This conclusion requires no evidence. It simply aligns with his expectations. He whispers a name, Plagueis, into an empty room. The room does not respond, but Sheev treats the silence as confirmation. He builds an entire ideology from fragments. He repeats lessons he believes were passed down to him. They were not, but his confidence shields him from recognizing this. The Jedi wrote warnings. Sheev turns them into a personal history. Dooku has no illusions about the Order's internal workings. He reviews requisition forms every year. He sees the invoices for emitter grids. He signs documents for materials used in prophetic chambers, none of which would be required if the Force functioned as advertised. He tolerates this for decades. He even teaches the official explanations with controlled patience. Then war approaches. The Council frames their decisions as responses to disturbances only they can detect. Dooku watches these disturbances align perfectly with Senate reports. His patience ends. He leaves the Order before he says something he cannot retract. Sheev seeks him out. He speaks with enthusiasm about Sith teachings. He speaks as though he has heard these teachings all his life. Dooku nearly tells him the truth. He stops when he sees how firmly Sheev believes his own narrative. Dooku sighs, quietly but sincerely, and adjusts his approach. He teaches Sheev what he thinks Sheev can handle. How to move in ways that obscure mechanics. How to time gestures with concealed signals. How to maintain an expression that implies knowledge no one can verify. He shows Sheev the gauntlet. He warns him once, clearly, not to overcharge it. Sheev overcharges it immediately. The resulting discharge obliterates a protocol droid with a sound sharp enough to make Dooku flinch. He examines the damage. The scent of burned circuitry fills the room. Grounding fault, Dooku mutters. Repairable. Sheev stares at the broken droid with absolute focus. That, he says, is the dark side. Dooku considers several responses. He chooses none of them. Very well, he says instead. It is easier. The Clone Wars start without elegance. Both factions activate strategies they have rehearsed far too many times. Jedi stand at the front lines, presenting calm. They speak as though insight guides them, though every insight they claim is built from observation, intelligence reports, and intuition sharpened over years of training. Sith operatives perform similar feats with different terminology. Their movements are rehearsed. Their timing is precise. Their equipment is identical in all but aesthetic design. When Jedi leap, hidden systems activate at the correct moment. When Sith appear to choke someone, they use pressure collars or well-timed pulses. The difference is presentation, not principle. Clone troopers witness these actions and interpret them as evidence of unseen abilities. The clones are not given technical briefings on Jedi equipment because the Council believes such information would compromise its authority. Droids attempt to quantify Force signatures. The readings reflect power emissions, not energy fields. No one involved in the analysis realizes this, largely because no one is instructed to check. Palpatine observes the battlefield from a distance and sees an ancient conflict brought to life. He does not recognize the common origin of the techniques used on both sides. His faith in his interpretation grows stronger. His understanding does not. Aphra does not hesitate. She never does. The temple contains more restricted areas than most military bases. Aphra enters 4 of them within an hour, mostly because she refuses to believe any security system is designed for serious use. She enters through maintenance access points and obsolete lift shafts. She moves with the confidence of someone who has infiltrated worse facilities and survived. What she finds is not a vault, not a sanctuary, but a server room filled with outdated machines that hum with the steady rhythm of hardware nearing the end of its functional lifespan. She bypasses encryption with a combination of skill and impatience. The system does not withstand either. The archive reveals everything the Order has hidden. Early prototypes, test results, schematics, records of failed demonstrations, insurance claims that are written in careful language designed to reassure auditors. Aphra reads until she feels the strain of too many consecutive realizations. She compiles the data. She adds her own commentary and margins that become increasingly irritated. She finds a public-facing terminal that should have been removed decades ago. She uploads the entire archive with a title so neutral that anyone seeing it will assume the content is far less important than it is. The temple responds quickly. Aphra does not escape. The Order suppresses the incident internally. They cannot suppress the data. It begins circulating immediately. Several planetary governments request clarification. The Council provides none. The Order transitions into damage control with a speed that suggests they have rehearsed for this possibility. They begin by rejecting the documents outright. This fails when multiple independent analysts verify the data. They shift to reinterpretation. They claim the devices are symbolic conduits. They claim the Force works through them, not because of them. Public statements adopt new language. Meditation becomes central. Physical demonstrations become rare. Training programs adjust quietly in ways that are visible to anyone paying attention. The Order creates outreach centers to emphasize moral teachings. They avoid any display that would require concealed machinery. Citizens respond differently across the galaxy. Some welcome the change. Some feel deceived. Some simply stop caring. Inside the temple, senior masters remain awake late into the night. They listen to shield projectors and ventilation systems and think about the first demonstration, the one in the cavern, the one that set all of this in motion. They remind themselves they meant well. They repeat it until the words lose meaning. Palpatine reacts far differently. He does not see the leak as a revelation. He sees it as evidence that the Jedi betrayed the deeper truth of the Force, the truth he believes he discovered. He speaks privately about destiny and design. He interprets public fear as validation. He interprets the Senate's compliance as confirmation. He interprets Dooku's teachings as fragments of an ancient path. When he activates the gauntlet again, he watches the glow of its systems with the conviction of someone who believes the light originates from within himself. The Jedi lose their certainty. Palpatine's certainty becomes absolute. When he executes his final plan, he does so with complete confidence. Clone helmets update with new commands during routine adjustments. Jedi fall during ordinary patrols and missions, many without any chance to activate the hidden support systems they rely on. Palpatine watches the temple burn from a secure location. His voice remains steady as he speaks. Words no one challenges. The Force has chosen. He believes the statement entirely. The Empire stabilizes itself. The rest of the galaxy attempts to understand what happened. Some citizens cling to Jedi teachings without addressing the contradictions. Some discard the entire tradition. Some remain uncertain. Veterans gather in small groups on distant worlds and speak about incidents that make more sense now. Warnings from generals explained by surveillance, unusual movements caused by concealed devices, mystical insights formed from ordinary guesswork. One survivor of the temple insists he felt something real. No one challenges him. No one agrees either. The conversation ends quietly. Several communities adopt the term Force for practical purposes, a name for unplanned intersections of lives, a word for intuition, or a way to discuss responsibility without invoking myth. A few people attempt to revive old teachings without the hardware. Their efforts are slow and calm, which is a noticeable improvement over earlier traditions. Palpatine ignores them entirely. He credits his authority to destiny. He does not see the chain of ordinary events and frightened decisions that keep his regime functioning. his confidence remains untouched. The rest of the galaxy does not share it. So what if the Force never existed as described? No field, no current, no mystical consistency, only equipment, ritual, selective truth, and a willingness to present machinery as something greater because the alternative felt insufficient. The Jedi built an institution from partial information. Sometimes they protected people. Sometimes they obscured the truth. Often they did both without realizing how much the distinction mattered. Palpatine inherited the myth without understanding its construction. He reshaped the galaxy using beliefs he formed in solitude. The Clone Wars did not hinge on cosmic balance. They hinged on ordinary beings, faulty systems, structural decisions, and one man who never questioned his own assumptions. The Force, as a phenomenon, did not exist. Its consequences did. Worlds changed. People suffered. Children were taken based on tests with no measurable foundation. The galaxy now faces a reality without predetermined roles. Actions remain. Outcomes remain. Some still use the word force, carefully and without ceremony. A way to acknowledge that lives influence each other, and that influence matters. If someone in robes claims authority from an unseen power again, the galaxy has the experience and the records to evaluate the claim properly. It knows how to check the walls. This has been Canon Chaos.